Amanubi Rakatar was teaching Nuwapu or Wunuwa in the 60s, ancient Egyptian mysteries. So at that time, the government started flooding the United States with all types of Qur'ans, and that was when the Pakistani and Indian immigrants, Muslims, started migrating to the United States. And they brought these bad translations of Quran. The Ahmadiyya Quran was a bad translation. The Maulana Muhammad Ali and Yusuf Ali from Pakistan were bad translations. But along with these translations came the people. New York especially. New York was flooded. The East Coast was flooded with immigrants from Pakistan, India, and different Islamic countries. So they came into New York and took over. They took over State Street Mosque. And that was a split. And that's why Fatima, or the Holy Mother, Mary Abba Ocran, Amanubi Rakatar's mother, left State Street Mosque. She left because it wasn't what everybody was into. At that time, all black people in America went to Islam.
So he had to go get them.
He had to go in and save them. And that's what he did. He came into Islam under Nubian Islamic Hebrews. We were not just Muslims. We were different. Because we were attacked every day by the Sunnis and the Shiites, and y'all not real Muslims.
And you was telling me earlier how y'all was wearing the 6-pointed star, which is the sun, the Ankh, and the crescent on the tar bush.
With a black tar bush and black butter.
The same way we wear now.
What we wear now. Well, Amanubi Rakatar was teaching Wunuwap in the 60s. He abandoned it because the government, it was actually, Sunni Islam is the government conspiracy. Mm-hmm. The government was funding the Sunni Islam movement in America because that's what all the black people were searching. At that time, blacks were looking for this Messiah. They were looking for a leader. They were looking for the truth. So the government bombarded them with Pakistan, India, and Sunni Islam, and Ahmadiyya Islam. If you notice, all of your musicians back in the 60s were all Sunni Muslims. All of them. They were all Sunni. And that's why at that time, Imam Isa popped up on the scene. Al-Hajj, Imam Isa al-Haadi al-Mahdi was the great-great-grandson of Muhammad Ali al-Mahdi, a prophecy born exactly 100 years after Muhammad Ali al-Mahdi of Sudan. He came on the scene. He abandoned the teaching of Wunuwap temporarily and started teaching al-Islam in its pristine purity. It's a split because the package that came in to take over the mosque, and they were disrespecting Sheikh Dawood and Mother Khadijah. And that some 10, 15 years later, when Ali Imam Isa became prominent and fully taken New York, took over New York. We took New York by storm. And it was violent. It wasn't always pretty.
Yeah, you yourself, you said you was stabbed.
We went to Harlem in 73, and we got attacked by some Sunni Muslims from the Muslim-Islamic Brotherhood. Back in those days, you know, they would kill you. Those days, see, today, these brothers today are just talk, and they're selling wolf chickens and stuff, and they're not really warriors. The real warriors are dead and gone. The real men, the real warriors jumped off the ship. Did you see the movie Black Panther?
Yeah.
He said that let me join my ancestors, the ones that jumped off the ship. The ones that made it, the men that made it here in America were the punks. They were the softies that made it here and became slaves. So I don't need none of you cats coming with no wolf tickets because you're not no tough guy. The real warriors was from the 60s, man, the 70s. Those brothers were, and it was the dangerous and gritty streets of Brooklyn, New York. That's where everything was in Brooklyn. It wasn't, and it was dangerous. We had, every time we came out with the streets, we had to fight. 5%ers, Sunnis, Shiites, Ahmadiyya, Hebrew Israelites, not the ones you see on the corner today. The Isley brothers, not them. But, so we were in Harlem one day. We were in Harlem. At that time, there was turf. Everybody had their own turf, which came from the gang wars in the 60s. So they brought that gang mentality into Islam. And a lot of these brothers that were ex-gang members. So everybody had their turf. Our turf was in Brownsville. And we were in Coney Island, Brownsville, Crown Heights, Bed-Stuy. So if you were in Harlem, that was not our turf up there. We got jumped by Sunnis up there, man. We was at the propagate with our white suit on. We got jumped, stabbed up. I got stabbed 3 times. So I don't want anybody telling me nothing about. I paid my. I shed blood. I got stabbed right. We got attacked right in front of the 5% headquarters. I think it was 127th and 7th Avenue. Right there where the first 5% headquarters where Clarence 13X used to hold parliament right there.
You told me Imam Isa actually met Clarence 13X in person.
Yes, he did. Imam Isa was legendary, man. There's nobody out there that can
And you said he told Clarence 13X to his face.
It was a brother named Amin who was a fierce warrior from the 60s, man. He was an ex-Black Panther and came into Islam, ex-gang leader, and he was fearless. They went to Parliament one day. Him and Imam Isa went to Parliament. Because at that time, Clarence 13X Putin was very prominent. 5%ers were everywhere, and they were young, and they were brash, and they were fighting, they were warriors, man. And so, Imam Isa walked in Parliament. It was about a few thousand young men there in Parliament. Clarence 13X was sitting on the stage. Imam Isa walked through the crowd, walked up to the stage. And he told Clarence 13X, if you be Allah, stop your heart from beating. It was just a debate. This is what Imam Isa was thinking. I'm going to go in here and debate this guy, and I'm going to, put him to the test. So Clarence 13X was saying that he was Allah. He was God. He was Allah in the flesh, right? And so Imam Isa asked him right in front of everybody, if you be Allah, stop your heart from beating right now. And before he could say another word, he didn't even know Amin had a 45. Amin took out a 45 and stuffed it in Clarence 13X's mouth and said, you say you're Allah. But back then, brothers were ready to die over Islam, over Allah. You slander Allah, Muhammad, man, you get killed for that.
Yeah.
And so what happened is, Imam Isa didn't know that Amin had a gun. So Amin took out a 45, stuffed it in Clarence 13X's mouth and said, say you're Allah, one more time, I'll blow your head off.
In front of all your followers.
In front of everybody.
Yeah.
And
what Clarence 13X say?
He didn't say nothing. Had a gun barrel in his mouth. That's a true story. And Imam Isa and Amin got out of there alive without a scratch. After it was over, they walked out. Nobody attacked them or nothing. That's legendary.
In 1973, where I almost died at Harlem Hospital, and he came in and pulled me out. Just, he walked me around my bed 9 times. He told me, I'll only be able to do this for you one time. So I've faced death before. This is not.